Everywhere I look, everyone seems to be focusing on what's wrong with the world.
Two shooters were initially believed involved in the mass shooting.
ISIS has now claimed responsibility for today's deadly terror attack.
Initially reported as a 7.9 quake, it was upgraded.
The worst outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus. Police believe the attack may have been a hate crime.
On this podcast, we choose to focus on the good.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Many times when it appears that something is happening to you, it is always happening for you.
Because I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Every single one of us makes a difference every single day.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Welcome back to the Focus on the Good podcast. I'm so excited that you are here with me today and that you are ready for your weekly dose of positivity. Today we have one of my very best friends in the speaking industry, Josh Drean. And as I was listening over this conversation, that's something I do every single time I do an interview. One, because I want to get familiar with what we talked about so I can speak in these intros. But also because I get a lot out of these interviews as well. I hope that you do too, but I get a ton out of them. And so I was listening over this conversation, and I was also thinking about Josh's work with his YouTube series and also with his speaking. And I came to the realization that everything that he does is promoting the power of empathy and how important that is, how important it is to be empathetic. And I'm just going to kind of talk about this a little bit. Typically in my intros, I really plan out what I'm going to say. And today I just kind of wanted to speak some of my thoughts, just kind of get some of my thoughts out on this subject. I hope that's okay with you. And what I started thinking about is right now it seems like the world is so polarized, especially our country. If you're listening somewhere else, I'm not sure about what things are like there. But right now in America, things are so polarized with the election going on and just everything. It seems like if someone has a difference of opinion, then they are this horrible person. They're just this terrible, terrible person. And really, well, first of all, this show is the complete opposite of controversial. I am never, ever, ever going to go into politics in this show. I am never, ever, ever going to go into religion in this show. Even though I'm a very religious person, that's not what this show is about. I'm not going to be that person who is going into things that can be controversial to people. This show is about promoting positivity and promoting people who are doing great things. But my one thought on that is we find that these things that we care about, they're really things that people care about. The reason why there is division is because people they care so passionately about these subjects. But what I'm asking of you, what I'm asking of everyone who's listening to this is see what someone is thinking, see the way that someone acts on the other side, or see their opinions, or see whatever. Look at the people on the other side and try to understand why they would feel that way. Why would they have these opinions? If they're different than yours, why would they have those? Because I sincerely believe that people on the other side, whether it's a conservative or a liberal, whether it's a Christian or a Muslim, whatever it is, someone who has a difference of opinion from you, I really believe that they're doing what they're doing because they think it's the best thing that they can do. Just like you are doing what you are doing, you are believing what you are believing because you think it is what is best for you, and that you think it's what's best for those around you. And just what I want to say, and what I wish that everyone would believe and everyone would feel, is that everyone's just trying to do their best. That's what it comes down to. I really believe that all people are good. All people are good, and we're all just trying to do our best. We're doing our best with what we have. And maybe you're a lot further along than someone else. And maybe what you have is a lot further than someone else, but that other person who's doing something that maybe you don't approve of or maybe you don't agree with, they're doing the very best that they can with the knowledge that they have. That's what I believe. And I believe that if we can put ourselves in other people's shoes and we can be more empathetic, we can have so much more understanding. And I think that there's nothing that would help the world around us more than people understanding where other people are coming from. So that was my thoughts on this today. I hope that ramble was something that you can get some value out of. I love this conversation that I have with Josh. He talks about his career as a speaker, talking with youth, but he also talks about his video series. It's called You Got Served. It's a prank-based video series that focuses on random acts of kindness. It's pretty cool what he does there. You should check it out. It's called You Got Served. And in one of the episodes, he actually pretended to be a homeless person. And basically what happened, he'll explain it, but if anytime someone was going to give him money, he ended up giving them a gift card and saying thank you for being willing to give service. But what was interesting is that he said that he saw the way that people looked at him. And it was amazing just because it was just one day him pretending to be homeless and dressing up like a homeless person. But he felt completely different about himself because he saw the way that other people saw him. And it made him have so much more empathy for someone in that situation. So it's really cool. You're going to love this conversation. Josh travels internationally speaking to hundreds of schools and thousands of students every single year to help them handle life's challenges in a positive way. He's made appearances on NBC, Fox News, and ESPN. Like I said, he has a YouTube series called You Got Served, a prank-based video series that focuses on random acts of kindness and service. And currently, Josh is pursuing a master's degree at Harvard University. He's really smart, too. So let's jump right into this episode. I know you're going to love it. Thank you so much for listening. I choose to focus on the good, and I hope that you will, too. All right, Josh, thank you so much for being with me. Where are you today?
Thanks for having me, Jake. I am in San Diego in a little hotel down in Little Italy, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Little Italy, San Diego. I did not know that San Diego had a Little Italy.
Yeah, they do, actually, and they're quite festive this time of year because they've got nutcrackers and Christmas trees and all sorts of good stuff. So
nice. So this is the life of a speaker, huh?
Yeah, this is. It can be a lot of fun. You can be the most popular person in the world, right? On stage, it's a blast, but the minute you get off stage and you leave the school, you're alone until you get to your next school. And it can be the most fun and most lonely thing.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I feel exactly the same way. But what do you like to do when you're speaking, when you have time off? Like, what do you do to keep yourself sane?
That's a great question. So I have recently, as the past year, I have not stepped on an airplane without bringing my skateboard with me. My skateboard goes everywhere with me because I just, the way that I get out and cut loose after I'm done speaking is I just get on my skateboard and I explore the town. It's a lot better than just walking around because it takes forever. Plus, like, skateboarding always makes it interesting, like jumping off of things and practicing tricks and everything. So I skateboard when I'm not speaking.
Dude, that's so cool. I don't think there's any other speaker that does that. I don't think there's anyone. I've seen pictures of you with a skateboard in places, but I didn't know you brought it with you everywhere.
Yeah, like everywhere. I'm like Googling where the nearest skate park is. And it's kind of weird too, because sometimes I'll run into students at that school, right? They're like, they're looking at me like, who's this old guy at the skate park? Like, what is he trying to do here? And then they're like, oh, he came to my school. Oh, and they get excited about it. So,
I could see that. And then they see that you're skating, and then they think you're really cool, huh?
Yeah, you know, like it earns you some cred. In my age, and 28, you gotta have some cred with these 14-year-olds, and skateboarding does it for me.
That's awesome, man. That's super cool. And what about You Got Served? So first of all, just explain what You Got Served is and how you do that. And I know that's something you do when you're on the road a lot. So just tell us a little bit about You Got Served and what that process is like.
Yeah, You Got Served is actually a movement that I'm trying to start, but it started as a YouTube series. So I was traveling to these schools, I'm working with youth, and I'm kind of getting an idea for what they like to do and seeing where their interests are. What I started to discover is that kids love prank videos. They love to make them, they love to watch them, and there are YouTubers right now who have millions of subscribers just because they go out and they do these pranks. And I love prank videos. I don't know who doesn't like them. They're a lot of fun. It's just one problem with most prank videos that I've noticed is that they come from a negative place. They take advantage of someone on the streets who is unaware of what's about to happen, and these teens go out and they do something unkind or rude, or not even that. It's just kind of like, what? Just to get a reaction from them. So it almost feels like the whole world is laughing at these people. We're taking advantage of them for our own humor and pleasure. And so another way that I can connect with my audience off stage is through my own prank videos called You Got Served. Gotta love the name, right? Because it's totally like You Got Served, right? We're pranking people,
Absolutely.
but it's service-oriented pranks. We're going in there and we are serving others in a way that they weren't expecting. And so some of the videos that you'll see are like, one, I dress up as a homeless person, and anyone who tries to give me money, I say, hey, I'm not homeless, but here's a $10 gift card to Starbucks or to Chick-fil-A. Another episode I filmed, I have what's called a cash cannon. Don't ask me where I got it, but it shoots money. But it shoots money. So I went to New York City, and instead of just giving people who needed some money, just handing it to them, I decided to shoot it all over them. It makes it fun, it makes it engaging, and kids like to see it. They like the pranks. So it's positive pranks, and it's a way to show kids that you can have fun and you can be respectful at the same time.
That's awesome. How has it been received by people, especially by kids?
Good question. A question I get all the time is like, wow, have any of your videos gone viral? Or, wow, how many subscribers do you have? I would say that none of my videos have gone viral. I'm pretty sure that my parents appreciate them. They share them on their Facebook page, so that's cool. It takes a while to get rolling, but I would say that the students that actually see the videos, I've had a lot of positive reactions to them. And even sometimes I'll go to a school and the kids have already heard of me because they've seen some of my videos, and they have followed me on YouTube already. So it's kind of cool to see the movement take off just a little bit.
Yeah, that's more of what I was talking about, because like, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are so concerned with how many subscribers, how many viewers, how many of these different things, but like really, like most people are aware that you can, if you want to have a video that has 100,000 views, you can buy that. You can do a lot of things to make it look like you're really successful, but you can't somehow artificially get someone to send you an email saying this made a difference to me. And that's more of what I was talking about it being received well. And I know you've told me a little bit about that before. And I just think what you are doing with You Got Served, I think is really cool, and something that's the kind of thing that I want this podcast to be about, to feature people like you who are actually doing something different to make a difference in the world. And I just think that's really cool what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. And I guess to further answer your question, the best way that I've got engagement is after my presentations, I'll say, hey, I do this thing called You Got Served. Follow me and keep up with me. And that has been really received, because then students go and they find me on YouTube. They can watch my old videos. They can keep up on the videos that I'm currently posting. And every time I throw up a video, I always get a few students who are like, that was awesome, or we totally remember you. And then it's a chance for me to re-engage that audience in that school. And it's really cool to see it take off more than just making videos. Like I said, it's starting to become a little bit more of a movement, and here's how. I went and spoke to a school called Missouri Valley Schools. It's a school district out in Iowa. And 2 weeks before I went out to the school, I'd already spoken at the school last year. They brought me out for a second year in a row. And before I went out to that school, I sent a video challenge to those students, just posted it up on their Facebook page, and I said, hey, super excited to come hang out with you guys again. I have a challenge for you to make your own episode of You Got Served. Film it, put it on Vine, put it on Instagram, hashtag You Got Served. I'm going to pick a winner, and whoever wins, they can get like a Josh Drean DVD or a cat t-shirt. So I threw out the challenge, not really sure how it was going to be received, and I didn't hear anything until like the night before. And then I got a text from the counselor that says, go check out our Facebook page. So I went and checked it out, and there were 6 or 7 videos that students had made and had posted up that were just amazing. We had a whole class that decided to go and make lunch for the cafeteria ladies, and they could just kind of hang out. Then we had another class, they made a service robot with candy inside of it, and they'd drive it around the school, and kids could take candy if they wanted. Some other students served the secretary by giving her a scented candle for her office. And I was just floored. Even a teacher was involved. A teacher was in Target and heard that there was a kid who needed a new pair of shoes, didn't have the money for it. So he went and bought a gift card for the kid and gave it to him. And I was just shocked that the school got so involved. I was so excited about it. And so when I went to the school, I just had to thank them so much for the work that they did. And we actually ended up filming an episode right then and there where we served the janitor. They have a janitor there, Rick the janitor. He's a really awesome guy, and apparently he does an amazing job at the school. He's always cleaning well. There was an experience about a year ago where there was a girl who didn't have shoes, and the very next day she had shoes, and everyone knows that Rick bought it for her, but he would never say that. He would never want credit for that at all. So we ended up deciding to serve him, where we called him into the library. We radioed him and said, hey, there's an emergency cleanup in the library. You got to come. He comes running. We're there with posters and balloons and streamers, and we just throw a little party for him. We sit him down in a chair, and then the rest of the kids go out and they do his chores for the day for him. So it's really cool to see that students are starting to film their own episodes and posting it up there to further spread that positivity.
That's so cool, man. Watching that episode, that was, I didn't know that there was all those other ones too, but that episode in particular was by far my favorite of all of the videos. Just seeing them show appreciation for that janitor, and also I just think like so many people look at youth and just think, oh, they're just so bad, or they're not like what we were, or it's like the song in Bye Bye Birdie, what's the matter with kids today? And I was
back, dude, the Bye Bye Birdie. Yes.
I was in that in junior high.
Oh yeah, awesome.
I was one of the parents, actually. I was one of the parents when I was in 7th grade. Awesome. Anyway, but I think that people have that view, and I've seen from going out to different schools, and I'm sure that you have through that, and also through this experience, through that video. Just, I think that the youth of today are amazing. I think that our future's in great hands. I think that they're really powerful, and they're just really amazing. Sure, there's problems, and there's a whole different set of problems that maybe older people don't understand, and so then they just think that they're all bad because we don't understand their problems and issues. But I think that the youth of today are amazing, and I think that your video there really showed that that's true.
I agree. I do a parents' night, and I'll get one of the biggest questions that I get during these parents' nights are, I'm an anti-bullying speaker, so I'm teaching parents about how to defeat bullying in the home front. And the question I get all the time is, are kids different today than we were? And I'll ask that question to them, and everyone will raise their hand saying, yeah, the kids are way different than we were. We don't even understand our kids nowadays. And I don't think that's true. I don't think kids have changed at all. It's just they have more tools. They have so many more tools readily available to them to be unkind and to be unruly. Like, they can be anonymous online and there's no repercussions. They can bully each other 24/7. We didn't have that back in our day. And so I would say the natures of these students haven't changed, just they have more tools, and they're using these tools in ways that there's a larger and larger generation gap to where parents don't really know what kind of apps kids are using. They're afraid to check what kind of apps they're using because who knows what it is or what they're doing. And so we just kind of write students off as different and messed up and this generation is failing, when I don't think it's true. It's just we need to continue to give them the tools that they can use to use these apps and these other media outlets for good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you doing that with You Got Served, I think you're giving them an idea of what to do, how to do something to be positive, how to use it in a positive way instead of doing something destructive that most of these prank videos are. And anyway, I wanted to ask you, what has been your favorite, so 2 questions. What has been your favorite video that you've made? And what's the biggest thing that you've learned from making these videos?
There's so many episodes that I just absolutely love, and they're all different. They all turn out way different, but there's a couple that I'd like to highlight. One of my favorites is actually the one that I dressed up as a homeless person, because I think it was the most eye-opening for me. So the whole idea was I dressed up like a homeless guy. I had my GoPro strapped to my chest, and I held a cardboard sign in front of the GoPro so no one knew that I had it. And if anyone came up to be generous to me, I would drop the sign. They could see the camera, and I said, "Hey, I'm doing a prank video. Here's a gift card. Thank you so much for being willing to serve me." And I learned 2 very important things from this episode. One, that there are a lot of generous people out there. We all have our ideas of what we think of when we see a homeless person, and I always make it an excuse not to serve. But I couldn't believe how many people reached out and decided to help me within even an hour. One guy had a bag of food prepared at all times just for when he saw a homeless person to give to me. Another person stopped and offered me a job. And
really?
Yeah.
What did he offer you?
Well, it was a lady, and she said she was going to offer me a job to work with Vivint.
Okay.
Which is like a
security,
sales company.
Security company,
security
right?
Systems, right? And I'm like, I've already been there. No, thank you, but like, thank you so much. So one, I learned that there is still good people in the world. Man, there are so many people willing to serve me. People throwing change at me, and I'm like, wait, no, you're missing the point. That was one thing. Another thing that I learned was a personal thing, is that on the flip side of that, I did see a lot of people who would give me a dirty look, would turn away, would tell me to go take a bath, which I totally agreed with at the time. But I started to feel that after a couple hours, I started to really feel some of these stares at me, like, wow, I am worthless. I am not good. And I started to empathize with these homeless people. It's really easy to stereotype them and say, hey, they might be using that money for drugs, or they've chosen this life, or whatever the excuses that we make up. We tend to judge them, and then it's easier for us not to have to give money or our services to them. And I think the whole episode, the purpose of it wasn't to say like, hey, give homeless people money. That's most likely not the best solution. But I am saying that they are people, and they do feel things. And I felt certain things when I saw people look at me, and I started to feel different about it. And so I think that regardless of how we decide to help these people, we do need to realize that they are people, and they do need love, and they do need that sense of belonging. And if we can empathize with them just a little bit more, then we will help more of them get off of the streets. That was a big one for me, because my whole message as an anti-bullying speaker is empathy, and I got to practice that extreme empathy by literally walking in someone else's shoes and seeing what they go through. And now my whole approach to how I deal with homeless people is completely different. And I hope that those who watch the video will maybe take a second to stop and think, what is that person going through? And is there anything I can do to truly help them?
That is awesome. That's really awesome to be able to see what they experience. And even though it was just a small microcosm of what was really, what they would actually experience, because you weren't really homeless and you knew that this was just temporary, but to see just, it's amazing how quickly our emotions can change when we're put into a situation, even if that situation isn't real.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can go into these schools and speak to these students about having empathy, but until they put it into practice themselves, they'll never really understand what it means to be empathetic and to feel what other people are feeling.
Sorry, go.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
I was going to say, what do you think that a high school or middle school student can do to have more empathy for each other? Because I think that's a huge issue, is that just, it is what it is. I see these students as being really amazing and having so much potential, but at the same time, just naturally, it is a very selfish age. We're naturally inclined to be selfish at that age until they learn empathy. And then when they learn empathy, that's where that starts to change. So what do you think that a student can do to improve their empathy, to feel empathy for others?
That's a great question. I love it. I don't believe that there's such thing as a bully. I don't believe that there's such thing as a bad kid. There's not. There's just kids who are trying to do what they think is in their best interest. And bullying happens when they aren't receiving like a sense of significance, a sense of belonging in their life. So they turn to these negative means to get that attention. And so empathy comes from truly stopping for a second and thinking, what is that person going through? And it's really easy. The world has made it super easy for us to not have to empathize at all. Back in the day, if I were to call you a name face to face, I would see your sadness in your face, and we're naturally empathetic. So I would start to feel sad in my heart and be like, wow, that didn't feel good. I didn't like that. Whereas nowadays it's very one-sided, because I can send you a text or a Snapchat. I can send you a message that's pretty mean, but I don't see the consequence. I don't get that side of the empathy from them. And so I think a lot of students kind of lose out on realizing that we're all kids, we're all going through the same thing, and that's not okay to say. So one thing that I coach kids to do is just to take a second to stop and think before you speak, think before you post, think what they're going through. I tell the kids, I don't expect you all to be friends. That might be too idealistic, but I am saying that before you say something or do something or post something that's mean or negative to someone else, stop and think for 1 second. What is that person going through? Because I guarantee if you knew what they were going through, you probably wouldn't say the things that you say to them.
Yeah, that's so true. I believe that so much. Everything you said, I'm right behind you 100%. So you, as an anti-bullying speaker, which is kind of funny because I think that a lot of people probably call you a bullying speaker, in which that would be you training people how to more effectively bully each other, which is not what you do. As an anti-bullying speaker, this is such a big issue, and it's all over the news. It's all over. It's a hot topic. It's something that people just seem to have no grasp on what to do, how we can do anything about it. As an adult, whether it's an educator or a parent or just somebody wanting to make a difference, what can we do to stop this problem, or at least make it so it doesn't continue to grow?
That is the question, isn't it? Right?
Absolutely.
That is everything that we want. And I wish there was like a very simple answer to it. Like, hey, guess what? Here is the solution to the bullying problem. And from a 30,000 foot level, I would say that the biggest thing that we can do is practice the whole school model, which is not just blaming the students and trying to bring in programs for them, not just putting all the responsibility on the teachers and training them what to do, but the students, the parents, and the teachers, all of them together, working with each one to defeat bullying positively, not in a negative way. We can't focus on the scare tactics to try and scare them into wanting to change, but to truly change our culture, we're going to have to focus on more of a holistic approach. But I would say, to answer your question more specifically towards students, the research shows that two things will defeat our bullying problem, and that is resiliency and empathy. The resiliency piece, meaning There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be that person in our life that wants to tear us down. And the minute that we try to do something bigger and better above our current situation, there's always going to be haters. So how are you going to be resilient? How are you going to take tools away from these trials that you're going through, and really just standing on your own 2 feet and saying, I know who I am and I know what I want to accomplish, and there are going to be haters, but I'm pushing forward anyway. The other side of that coin is empathy. Empathy being walking in someone else's shoes, feeling what other people are feeling. Because when we can empathize with others, we wouldn't be so quickly to be jealous or to be rude or to say the things that we say to others. Yeah, I don't know if that quite answers your question.
No, absolutely. That like, you're very knowledgeable on this, and I don't know if you really felt that yourself, but you really are. As I've talked to you about this, you know a lot about this. And you mentioned this briefly earlier, and this is something that you've talked to me about before, but can you tell us about the causes of bullying? And you said there's two, I believe it was 2 different reasons why. Could you go over that?
Yeah, so I studied psychology in school, and one of the reasons I decided to study that is because I just really want to understand how to help students through life's challenges. And one quote that I stumbled upon during my time at BYU was from Alfred Adler. He was a psychologist. He was a medicine doctor at the turn of the century. And he has a quote out there that says that, kids need 2 things. They just need a sense of significance. They need a sense of belonging. And if we can give that to students, then they're going to grow in a healthy and safe environment. But he goes on to say, if we do not give students that sense of significance, that sense of belonging, then they will seek for those needs to be met through bullying to gain that shadow of that sense of significance and belonging that they want. So essentially, every student needs those things. If they're not getting them in a positive way, they're going to turn to negative means to get what they need. And that's what I think bullying comes from. It's when we turn to that bullying and that negative confrontation so that we can be noticed, so that we can be popular, so that we can get that attention. And even though it's negative attention, it's still attention, and it gives them that shadow of that glimpse of that need met for them. My whole message is defeat bullying positively. We can't come in and talk about the suicides. We can't talk about the violence. I've learned that when you focus on the negatives, every time the results are going to be negative. When we focus on the positives, we're giving tools to students to be kind, to be respectful. And that's what we want to see. We don't want to hold them up and say, okay, we shouldn't do all of this stuff, but what should we do? And when we give them those tools, students are going to run with that. They want to be good people. They want to help others. They just need the tools to do it. And the whole presentation is trying to give them those tools so that they can go out and be confident and positive people.
If we just understood that, if everyone understood that that's what was really going on, I think that understanding would really be the biggest piece of the puzzle to really put a stop to this, because I think so many people just want to go, okay, so this person's bullying someone, so they need to be punished, or they need whatever it is, or I hear this all the time from parents where their kid's being bullied and they're talking to them and say, well, you know what? There's only one thing that a kid like that understands, and you have to stop him physically. Show up and punch him in the face. I've heard parents say that to their kids, and that just, if you understood this, if you understood that it's about significance and belonging, it completely changes the conversation. And Tony Robbins talks about the same thing, and he's not talking about bullying. He's just talking about in life, no matter what in life, we are trying. This isn't just kids. This is all people. We're trying to be significant, and we're trying to belong. And we're looking for that. We don't really change that much from the time we're children to adults. We go about it in different means, but we're still going after the same things. And like you said, if you can't get it in a positive way, we're going to do it in a negative way.
Yeah, it's true. And the whole thing, I'm actually in the process of developing what's called the YES model right now, the Youth Empowered School model. Wow. Just empowering youth to be the change, because the way the model used to work is a kid gets in trouble, we punish them, we suspend them, we expel them, and that solves the problem. And that's focusing so much on control, control, control. Well, with so many new apps and new ways that they can communicate behind our backs, that controlling piece doesn't work. The reason kids are committing suicide is because there's bullying going on behind the scenes that we don't see as admin until it's way too late. And we say, what? This came out of nowhere, when in reality it didn't. It had been there. It's just students didn't really stand up and say anything when they were seeing it. And so my whole yes model is to empower the youth to be the change, to stop and say, hey, when you see threats on social media, when you see something that's unkind, how about you and a couple of your friends post something positive on that person's page, just to give them a second option? Because these students who are being bullied, there's like 2 or 3 voices who are just attacking them from different angles on social media. 80% of the school doesn't even believe that, but no one's standing up and no one's saying, no, we don't agree with that. And the reason why kids commit suicide is because that becomes their reality. They think that everyone hates them. In reality, that's not true. But we got to stand up and we got to say something and be the hero, that bystander component. If they can stand up and say something positive to that person, all of a sudden they've actually got a choice. They can choose to listen to the negative voices. They can choose to listen to the positive voices. So we can put those tools in the students' hands. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I started doing You Got Served, is to teach some of these social and emotional learning components without saying it. You know, you can put a fun video up there and the kids will enjoy watching it, but there's some sort of really cool like learning outcome about team building or about serving others or random acts of kindness.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And you're right. If they only have the option of listening to the negative, then they're probably going to listen to the negative. But let's at least give them the option to have 2 different options of what they can listen to. They might still listen to the negative, but at least there's something else there. And if you're talking about a couple kids, I mean, most kids are not doing this. There's only a small group that are acting this way. And if everyone else just let them know that, no, we do think positive things about you and you should believe in yourself, maybe they would change. Maybe they would start to see that, hey, the whole world isn't against me.
That's the hope, and that's my fight.
I love it. I love it. So, Josh, what got you into being a speaker? Why did you want to be a speaker? And specifically, why did you want to get into being an anti-bullying speaker?
Great question. The reason that I wanted to be a speaker, I guess, is because I kind of had this like 6-month soul search in my life. I think everyone comes to that point in their life where they look back and realize, wow, do I have any talents? Am I good at anything? I was seeing all my friends when I was about 19. I was seeing all my friends with amazing talents. Some kid is amazing at soccer, or some kid is playing in a band, and I'm like, well, what about me? I'm just this loser guy with nothing. I thought I was going to be an engineer because my dad was an engineer, and he said you can do 4 years of school, start making good money, and you're good. And I started to realize, I don't really like math, and I don't really like sitting at a desk. So I spent some time in my life to just write 2 lists. One, all the things that I like and that I'm good at, and stuff that I hate and that I'm not good at.
Do you still have that list?
I do. I have it buried very far into my closet.
So someday, not on this podcast, but someday I would like you to show that to me. I'd be very curious.
I'm sure the things that we will find on there will be quite interesting. But,
I'm sure.
I was trying to be completely honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to know, because I feel that everyone's got a destiny. I'm fully convinced that everyone has at least one thing that they're put on this earth to do.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know what mine was, and it was frustrating. So I spent some time to figure out what it was, and all of a sudden I started to realize all the stuff that an engineer is on the stuff that I don't like. And the stuff on the other side was like completely different, a path that I didn't even consider. It was like, I love to be on stage, or I love to entertain. I want to make an impact on people's lives. I want to serve others. And I guarantee there is a career out there for anyone who has any sort of desire at all. And I just started doing some research, and I found, hey, youth speaking is the perfect fit. That kind of just feels like me. That's what I want to do. I get to be entertaining. I get to change people's lives. And so I've decided to, at that point become a youth motivational speaker. And a few years down the road, I became the mascot at my college, which is a whole nother story in and of itself. I was Cosmo the Cougar. Yes, I spent 3 years of my life dressing up as a cat, as a full-grown man dressed up as a cat. It was epic and fun. But as a mascot, I would go into schools and we'd perform. Like a football player would come in and give a little speech. Cheerleaders would be there. The mascot would come out and do some flips, and the kids would just get pumped. And I was so excited to see these kids just love me and love to see this. And then I would walk out the door after we were all done, and I realized, all that hype was for nothing because we didn't really give them anything. And so I thought, what if I take the fun stuff and mix it with the good content, the social and emotional learning? What if we could give them a message that could change their lives on top of the fun breakdancing and beatboxing that we were doing? So after I graduated, moved to New York, and I just started hitting the streets, trying to go into schools for free, asking them to share my presentation, and it just kind of snowballed from there into a full-time gig.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know about the list, and I knew a lot about the other stuff, but I didn't know that there was that moment. When you went into schools as the mascot, what was were you just getting kids excited about the team, or what were you doing?
Yeah, there's a variety of things, but mainly when we went to high schools, it was more of like a recruiting thing. So we wanted to go in and be like, hey, check out how awesome our school is. You want to come here, right? So that was mainly the things that we were doing, but there were like pep rallies we would help with, or I would deliver a game ball for the high school football team, or little things like that. But it's just so surface. It was fun, but like I knew that I could use some of those talents for better use.
That's awesome. And might I add, you are very good at it. For the listeners, I've seen you before, and it's amazing. It's amazing what you're able to do with a youth audience, and how involved they are, and how compelling what you say is, and not just the dancing, not just the jokes, not just the beatboxing, but when you're delivering real content, because you did all those other things, when you get to that real content, they really listen, and it's something you really have a gift for, and I hope it's something that you do for a very long time.
Thanks, Jake. I really appreciate it. I tell kids one of the biggest things that I teach is the number one job of a mascot is to represent. Because when you put on that suit, it's no longer about you. It's about your school. It's about a bigger picture. And so you stand as an ideal for people to rally behind. We talk a lot with students about, what do you represent? And what do you like to do? Because when you find that thing, then you become unstoppable. And that's when you start to discover, oh yeah, I represent my family. I represent my friends. I represent my sports team. And that's how we can help them make it personal when they choose to be positive or negative in their social interactions with others.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you talk about how you became a mascot? You just kind of breezed over that, but that story, I think, is inspiring to anyone of any age.
Yes, how you become a mascot.
Specifically how you became a mascot.
How I became a mascot. It's kind of funny, because no one really plans on becoming a mascot. They don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I think today I'm going to dress up like a cat and chase people around. That sounds like my career path. Maybe there are people out there like that, but not for me. So the way that I got into it is I have a younger brother who was a cheerleader all throughout middle school and high school. I talk a little bit about the struggles that he had as a cheerleader, because that is not stereotypical for males to be cheerleaders. And so I talk a little bit about the struggle that he had with his bullies, and how I, the older brother, was supposed to watch out for him. So I would protect him by threatening the other people, as scary as that was for them. But what happened is we moved to college at the same time together, and cheer tryouts came, and I was so excited for him, but he told me that he didn't want to try out, mainly because he was kind of tired of the scene. He didn't want to be made fun of anymore. He didn't want to be known as that cheerleader guy, and so he was ready to quit, even though he still loved it. And I knew his capacity to be an amazing cheerleader, and I wanted to encourage him to continue going. So I said I would do anything to help him out. And he said, okay, you try out with me. So I tried out for cheerleading in college. I was the worst. I had no idea what I was doing, but I also had this mentality that like anything that my younger brother can do, I can do. So I tried doing backflips for the first time right then and there, and it kind of worked out a little bit.
So wait, real quick, did you do a year as a cheerleader before you became the mascot?
I did, yep. So
okay.
I unexpectedly made the team, and I became a college cheerleader, and that's where I truly started to understand what my brother was going through, that it wasn't just a matter of saying, hey, don't mess with my brother, I'll punch you in the face. That intimidation piece is just an easy way out. Come to find out, what he really wanted was someone who understands him, someone empathy, someone to empathize with him. And my entire life, I realized that I wasn't doing that. I didn't empathize with him at all until I literally walked in his shoes and discovered that from my own perspective, people started to make fun of me or stereotype me. They thought they knew who I was because I was a college cheerleader, and they started to judge me because of that. And I said, geez, you got it all wrong. That's not me. And I didn't change. I'm still Josh, but people treated me differently completely. And I realized, wow, this is what he's going through. This must have been really tough. And so I really understood that empathy piece right then and there. But I did cheerleading for a year. We loved it. We were cheerleaders together. We grew closer together than we ever had before in our entire life. And then after that year, the mascot coach came up to me and asked me if I wanted to be the mascot. I said, it's for weird kids. Like, no one wants to dress up like a giant cat and chase people around. Actually, yes, I do. So
that fit your personality very well.
Yeah, all of a sudden, like, I found my destiny. It was to dress up as a cat and chase people. It was amazing, and it was great. But there's more to being a mascot than just having fun and dancing and doing tricks. There's a deeper side to it, and that's that you represent. Because when you put on that suit, people expect you to be a cut above the rest, and they look up to you. And so I realized that I needed to represent.
Wow. That I think is so inspiring. That just what you did in deciding to not just stand up for your brother, but to actually do what he was doing with him. And, you know, that's one theme I've noticed from this whole conversation and just getting to know you is that empathy is something that you really value. And I think that's something, hopefully I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I think a real central part of your message, but also just your mission in life is to help people understand that without empathy, they will never know what people are going through. Without actually experiencing it and trying to understand them, then we really have no idea what people are going through and can't really do anything for them unless we know what it is that they are going through.
It's true. It is very central to what I do. And it's just because I've realized that before we can help each other, we've got to put what we want and what we need on the back burner and go out and see, what do you want and what do you need? How can I help and serve you? I learned that very literally as a mascot because, I mean, nobody knows that Josh is in there. Nobody has any clue that I'm in there. And I don't get any credit at all. I don't get any fame. Like, I take the suit off and I'm just me again. Like, I don't get any recognition for that. But I realized that it's not about that. It's about what I represent, that bigger picture. And I just want to help other people realize that as well, is that, man, when you get outside of yourself, that's when you truly start to help others and you start to find who you are in a roundabout way. It's kind of this thing where you lose yourself to find yourself.
Absolutely.
And I mean, if kids can get that early on, then they're set for life because they will always have friends, they will always be taken care of, and they will always know that they are loved because they are working to help others.
I love that. I love that. This whole thing has been amazing. I've loved every minute of it. I've gained a lot from it personally. I hope everyone listening has gained a lot from it as well. I'm sure that they have. I love your positive outlook on life and just how you live your message. You really are this message. And I just got a couple more questions for you before we wrap this up. First question is, what do you think people can do? Like, if I'm just a random person listening to this, what can I do to make the world a better place?
Join the You Got Served movement and decide right now, this very second, what you can do to help someone else. Is the first thing that came to my mind. I
love it.
I know that when I decided to start filming You Got Served, I literally just stopped and said, okay, what can I do right now to help someone else? And I will tell you, like, immediately I had 3 or 4 opportunities right in front of me to help other people. They're everywhere on a daily basis, and when we are aware of the chance to serve, holy cow, they will come, and they will be strong, and they will be awesome. And if we can focus on those little random acts of kindness, we can literally change someone's life. Just saying hello, holding the door open for someone. I know that's kind of cliche for a motivational speaker to say, but man, I can't tell you the times I've been messaged on Facebook saying that, like, this helped me, and I'm like, all I did was be nice. I'm just trying to be kind here, and it helps. It really does. And man, film it. Hashtag You Got Served. That's how you join the movement, and other people will see that and they will be inspired. And then all of a sudden, it's not just a silly YouTube video. It's actually an opportunity for others to show how they can help others in a kind and respectful way.
That's awesome. So I don't need to be someone who has a following. I don't need to be someone who is on stage in front of thousands of people every week. I can just be a regular person and do this.
You got a phone, don't you? Hey, go film it. Yeah, just stop and think, who could need some service right here and now? And I guarantee you're going to be like, oh, my mom needs the dishes done, or oh, my sister needs help with her homework, or my dad needs help with the lawn. All of a sudden, there's all these opportunities to serve, and our first reaction is like, oh, I don't want to do that. But when we start doing it, that's when we can truly start to see, wow, I'm forgetting myself for a second, and this is really helping. This is really awesome. It works.
That's cool. So it'll help the people around you, but it'll also just help you to be a happier person in general. I like that a lot. Next question. So we are we're backstage right now, and you just found out that you are going up in front of an audience of 10,000 teenagers. But here's the catch. You only have 3 minutes to talk to them. What would you say? Didn't mean to catch you off guard.
That is the coolest question I've ever heard. I just had like a little panic attack in my heart.
You're
Holy
like,
crap.
wait, I'm what?
No pressure at all, right?
Well, really all I'm saying is you just have a few minutes to talk to youth. What is it that you're going to say?
Whew, no pressure. I feel like my message is very simple and very clear. So I would just break it down to the very essential part of what I talk about. I would spend a couple minutes, or I don't have a couple minutes.
Well, you can say 5 minutes. You just have, that's all you have. You just have a couple minutes.
I would first off just let them know from my perspective that I care about them and that they are loved and that there is a place for them in this world. And then I would talk to them about represent. As a mascot, your job is to represent. Life is more than just thinking about us and taking care of our own needs. It's about taking care of those people that are within our sphere of influence to serve. So I talk about represent, and that really comes down to 3 things. We talked about resiliency, empathy, and helping them understand their potential. Resiliency, empathy, potential, REP. That stands for represent. The mascot code is the choice that you make to represent well and to help students realize that when they make decisions, it's not just them who's affected, it's those people in their sphere of influence. I love you guys. I'm out of here.
Standing ovation. Oh, and the crowd goes wild. Oh, that is...
They're like, who the heck is this guy?
Well, let's just pretend they already knew who you were and you didn't have to introduce yourself. So I think people who are not speakers wouldn't really understand that. Having a few minutes to talk to a group is terrifying because they don't know why they're listening to you yet. You haven't got any kind of credibility with them yet. or anything like that. And of course, we both know that you need to spend some time building that credibility and building that connection. But the core of your content, that is just awesome. Can you say that again, what REP stands for, one more time?
Yes, represent. REP stands for resiliency, empathy, and understanding our potential.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So real quick, when you talked about you got served and I asked for your favorite episodes, I was surprised that Huntington Beach busking didn't come up.
Season 1, episode 2, that was definitely a good episode. To catch those listeners up on speed, I did an episode with my best friend, Jake Ballentine. We went down to Huntington Beach in November. Wow, it's been a little more than a year now.
Yeah.
I had this idea where we would go and we would busk, because I hear that Jake has some amazing busking talents with his guitar and singing and playing of the harmonica. So we went down to make some money, and we were there for about an hour. We didn't make a single penny.
It was not peak season.
That's right. It was not peak season, and there weren't a lot of tourists out. But, we had an amazing time performing for some homeless people. We got attacked, actually. Go watch the episode.
I was quite scared, to be honest. I was quite scared and felt like we need to leave now.
Yeah, we packed up pretty quick after that one. But it was a good episode, and somehow it turned out, somehow, even though we didn't make any money, we were still able to serve someone, and that was great.
Absolutely. So to wrap this up, where can people find you?
Just hit me up on my website, www.joshdrean.com. Everything that I do is Josh Drean. So if you go to Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, it's just type in Josh Drean. You'll find me. And I'd love to hear comments and questions and concerns.
Hopefully not too many concerns.
Yeah, if you're concerned about something, we got to give you a sense of significance and belonging here.
Exactly. Well, Josh, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being on here. You are amazing, and I love you, buddy.
Thanks, Jake. I love you too, man.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Always remember to look for the good in the world, because what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it. Please share it with those that can use it, and also rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. That helps us out tremendously. And remember, I choose to focus on the good, and I hope you will too.